last places. With these words, a large wave of longing for an ideal world resonates within me. Isolated islands in remote regions where man has yet to disrupt the natural cycles. As a traveler with a camera, I've been able to explore our Earth and document its beauty for over 30 years. The African continent, with all its diverse facets, has always fascinated me. Do I romanticize these last places, perhaps, while their residents may actually aspire to escape outdated standards and strive for a better life? Over the years, I have encountered many remarkable individuals. One of them was the Spanish ethnologist Joan Riera, who in 2017 organized a trip for me to South Sudan, which at the time was largely isolated. During an expedition to a remote area, both of us came close to death due to dehydration. Since then, we have remained close friends, as such borderline experiences tend to bring people together. A few years later, I decided to expand my professional spectrum beyond photography to the moving image. And he was excited about the idea of making the diversity of African culture visible in a film based on his Last Places project, and he was in. When we started, we could not have imagined the ways in which our story would unfold. That is precisely the magic of being curious. South Sudan, recognized as Africa's 54th country in 2011, was also the place of our reunion. The first stop on which we accompanied Joan with our small film crew. This region seemed frozen in time, as the British colonizers declared that the people were not ready for change, effectively shielding them from Western influences. Only after the colonizers departed in 1956 did the area witness a massive influx of Catholic missionaries, and significant changes followed. While culture disappeared, traditional architecture often endured. The village of the Lotuko ethnic group, situated amidst picturesque rocks on a hill overlooking the vastness of the surrounding savanna, is one such example. However, many similar villages have been abandoned in recent years. Accessibility to water has become easier on the plains, and the promise of modernity lies along the roads. The Lotuko too desire progress, especially now that the region is no longer plagued by the endless civil war that had tightly gripped the country for decades. Currently, the women must endure a strenuous journey, climbing up and down a difficult path for over 3 kilometers to reach a small reservoir and fetch water. The intensifying heat and lack of rainfall in recent years have made survival increasingly challenging. In his customary manner, Joan engages with the people, expressing that their centuries-old village is a true gem, deserving recognition by UNESCO. The idea is simple. The Lotuko would remain on the hill, preserving their heritage, while Joan and his team initiate fundraising efforts to install a water pump at the base of the mountain, where water is readily available. Despite the prohibition of their dances by the missionaries, the elderly members of the community graciously shared their rituals with us, and the younger generation eagerly participated. It was a revival of something nearly forgotten for 40 years.
So his name is called Lokal. He's one of the youth of this area. So according to him, there have been a lot of changes from their generation to this generation here. In their generation, the rains used to come in January. Not like nowadays. You find the rain comes in April or in May, which is too late for their crop. So by then, they were having a lot of plenty of food. The animals were satisfied with water, with grass. Really, it was a different world. So in that generation, they used to have only two diseases of animals. Compared to nowadays, there are a lot of sicknesses that have come into the world. Before, their animals could produce a oil of 20 liters, but nowadays they can only make a cup of oil from their cow. The past their animals were productive, but now, due to the climatic changes that they have received, so it has brought a lot of sicknesses to their animals and sicknesses to their communities. You find people are dying of malaria, dying of a lot of sickness, a lot of cough. So according to them, the world is going from good to worse. They are seeing the future not very clear, and they are afraid of losing the culture.
Just a few hours' drive from the plains inhabited by the Toposa people, we reach the Mboya Valley, where the Larim have established their villages amongst a wooded landscape, offering some respite from the scorching heat through the shade of trees. The temperature consistently surpassed 40 degrees Celsius every day, making the brief shower that occurred during our filming all the more joyous. We found ourselves in a region where the influence of the government in the capital city of Juba is limited, and each ethnic group follows its own rules. Traditions remain intact, and the Larim exhibit a strong sense of culture. The almost complete absence of plastic waste serves as further evidence of the sustainable practices. Widows wear white garments during their mourning period and receive support from the community for a certain duration. The decades of civil war have resulted in an alarming proliferation of weapons among the tribes. The Larim, a minority within ethnic minorities, have historically been in conflict with the Toposa people. With a worsening climate crisis, the Toposa increasingly eye the fertile land of the Larim, leading to conflicts over resources and the use of modern weaponry, resulting in violence. While en route to a nearby mission station, we encountered a group of Larim individuals carrying a woman who had been shot by Toposa warriors to a small hospital. One of the better remnants of the British colonial era that genuinely aids the local population. Shortly thereafter, two contrasting worldviews collided.
To Africa, to know the reality, how people live. So I came here in 2012, a year after the independence. So I came briefly to this place and I fell in love with this architecture. They have their constructions.
Yeah, as you said, I'm a Christian missionary here. And so my focus is to bring the Bible to the people here, to spread the message of Christ, that yeah, all of us, we are born into sin, we are lost, and it's through Christ that we find salvation.
That evening, I ventured alone among the rocks with my camera to relish in the enchanting landscape. As darkness descended, I noticed a fire growing in the distance, accompanied by unmistakable screams echoing across the plains. My mind was flooded with images of a Toposa attack. Overcoming my fear, I approached the scene to investigate. It turned out that the little girl had lost control of an open fire. And while it was not an act of violence, it offered little solace, as 3 families had lost their belongings. That day left me with much to contemplate. The deeper we immersed ourselves in the reality of people's lives, the stronger a feeling spread that something crucial was missing from our story. We were reproducing the same patterns that have led to one-sided worldviews in so many narratives. The perspective of the white man, whose privileges give him virtually every opportunity to travel to every corner of the globe. Late, but not too late, I remembered another person from an earlier encounter and contacted her. It was a small step, but with a big effect.
Kushe, mi fambulde. My name is Diáka Salena Koroma. I would like to tell you what Africa means to me. Mama Africa. It means fertility, freedom, liberty, music, values, culture, equality, respect, beauty, and so much more. I left home, Sierra Leone, to travel to Cameroon to see with Joan what Africa really is to this day. But first, I wanted to learn more about him and what he does. I was ready to listen. Hi, Joan!
Oh my dear. Finally. Finally. Wasn't easy, eh? Shit. But we made it.
We made it.
Africa is a complex and enigmatic universe, filled with both tragedy and beauty, which is often difficult to grasp or explain.
The majority of the people in South Sudan are Dinka, the tallest tribe in Africa.
Joan's passion enables him to do just that. His strength lies in challenging conventions and exploring paths that remain invisible to most.
Did you notice that Dinka and Diáka?
Yeah.
Took the N out.
I hadn't related, but it makes it.
Yeah.
It is this very strength and courage that Diáka also possesses, and I was relieved to witness their emotional connection from the very beginning.
These people are cattle herders. They never kill cows, they are sacred. They connect with the old Egyptian religion, so it's a very particular balance between these animals and them, no? During the civil war, since most of the army fighting the Islamic North was formed by Dinka soldiers, they bombed their cows. The government of Khartoum bombed their cows, they killed the cows. Most of the Dinka lost their cows. Because of the expansion of Islam, they moved to this big swamp called the Sud, S-U-D-D, means the big water in Arab. In fact, this swamp is the biggest freshwater swamp in the world. In a way, they say this stopped Islam crossing into Black Africa. And going back to the issue of cows, it was a refuge in the war.
Okay, my name is James Deng. I'm from South Sudan. I'm here to make a living because this is where we survive. The only thing we get in this country is what we do with our hands, and we have to fish so that we sustain our families. So that's why we are here to work and to earn a living, because what we do is what we go and sell outside there to other people who need it, and we also we get what we eat from this. This is my uncle, and I came to live with him for a while so that at least I earn a living, and I also get something for school fees, and I go back to school. We have so many challenges because mosquitoes and other things like small diseases. We also need medical attentions and other things that can help us in this place, because sometimes even rains are going to come. As you see that thing there that we have made, there's a foundation we have laid there. That foundation is where people are going to stay in case this place gets flooded, because this one is not stable. There's something that we have put on the ground, and we have put mud on top of it so that it can support us in living in this place so that we can live comfortably. You see, we are surviving and in this area, and things are difficult, but there's nothing we can do. This is our country, and we are trying our best.
What characteristic of these last places is that life is there. Nothing is not like a mall, no? That it's cool and controlled and perfect. Life is thriving in all senses, for good, for bad, and it's where I feel alive. Yeah, South Sudan is what I call a real country, a country on the making. Yeah, they got rid of the Arabs, they got rid of the British, and now they're building their nation. I mean, it's tribal people in the parliament, for good and for bad, but it's their way. So let's see what happens with this socio-political experiment of South Sudan. Now in this place where we're meeting, it's a very symbolic place for our family. When we're living here in Cameroon, my father, as a veterinary doctor, began to be interested in the different cultures that were surrounding the place we were living, and discovered African art. It was the guy who owns this place, Seydou Moulium, that introduced my father. That was almost 30 years ago. And well, he told us the difference between real objects and fake objects. And it's something I will never forget. No, I was listening back then, no, to the elders, no. He said, a real object is something that has a meaning for African people, that it's something that comes from them. And a fake object is something that has been done to sell to foreigners. It has no soul. We spent 5 years here in Cameroon, no, in southern Cameroon. Later, I came back to Spain, continued my studies. Yeah, it was this conversation with people that were in the world of art, the world of culture. And Africa and its thoughts, its reasonings, its gaze, started penetrating in our family, no?
I have made a pledge that I'm going to travel Africa. I'm going to explore Africa. I'm going to explore my culture. See, the one that really almost drove me crazy was the fact that for me to come to Cameroon, heaven and hell had to break loose, literally, for this to happen.
Yeah, my partner said, look, they will give her a hard time because she's African.
Like, they have built walls against us Africans that we cannot even find ways to even exchange our cultures. These are problems you might not have known from your reality, but please, tell me more about your experiences.
When I came to Angola, I knew it was a special place. I came through Luanda. Luanda is the capital. It used to be called African Paris because after the Second World War, the economy of this country exploded. They were the first coffee producers in the world. What did it give to the city? Money. The mixture of the Latin influence of the Portuguese, the African traditions, full of contrast. It's a place I want to explore, go deeper, no? We drove to the south, and we met what I define as like the original Bantu from Western Cameroon until South Africa. The main ethnic groups belong to the Bantu. But due to colonization or to Christianity, they have lost the way they used to look. Here in Angola, in southwestern Angola, you still find the people how they used to look in Congo, in Cameroon, in Gabon, 150 years ago. I was very impressed by this. No, it's something I didn't expect. There's no information. This country has been closed for 40 years due to the civil war. It was the longest one in Africa, together with the one in South Sudan. So that has stopped visitors from the outside world to this place. The area where people like the Muila live is a very harsh environment. Yes, these are semi-nomadic people. Prior to the Civil War, the Portuguese colonizers didn't get to this area. Yeah, it was not interesting for them. There was nothing to get from them. can see this, what I defined as like an island of resistance. No? It's a place where you have a huge cultural diversity that has had its own evolution without foreign influence. When I met them, when I started to have connection with their communities, learning about them, I thought to myself, this should not disappear. And I started my process of finding ways of talking to the local authorities, talking to the local leaders, to the women.
Do you speak their language?
Speak some elements. Normally, my communication there, I learned Portuguese. I mean, it's similar to Catalan and to Spanish, so I use the colonial languages because most men they trade in the market, so they speak Portuguese. They know what is going on. Now the country has opened now to foreign investment. So this land that had no interest for the foreign investors, now they know there's minerals under the dry soil. No, there's diamonds, there's gas. Things will be happening in their territory. So with my people there, we were informing the communities. You have to have land titles. You have to train some of your youth in law so you can defend your rights because things are coming. There was a Portuguese civil servant. He was interested in the people living around his office, and he started investigating. He spoke about the people called Cuepe. Cuepe.
Cuepe.
There's an industrial port in Namibe city. It's in a colonial town in the Atlantic Ocean in Angola. And behind the port, you find some caves. It's a dumping place. It's where people throw garbage. Yeah. And these were the place where the Cuepe used to live until the 19th century. A community of gatherers and fishermen and fisherwomen. I mean, the woman used to collect seashells. But I said, what happened to these people? I had only this writing of, there's an oasis where some of the descendants of the people living in this cave are still there. So then I went to the oasis of Kuroka. You come into that community and you see a cemetery, and it said the name in Portuguese of these people and the Cuepe, João Cuepe, Miguel Andrés Cuepe.
So why were they being buried with a cross?
When the Portuguese came there, from what I learned later, they were captured and were enslaved. Yeah? And they were forced to change their name, and they were baptized. Yeah? They abused the local people. It was horrible. 20 years ago, most of the last Cuepe speakers faded away, ended. Now they only speak Portuguese. When this guy who wrote about them, they were just 25. They were disappearing. Now the population has grown, but they have lost the language. They have lost the language. If they had not adapted to the new world, they would have been killed. They couldn't do anything else. Despite having lost their language, they still keep some rituals. I mean, their leader, Antonio is Anthony.
What name is
yeah,
that?
It's Antonio Cuepe. Antonio Cuepe, and he knows 2 words in Cuepe, and his mother was the last speaker.
Agora ficamos com metade daqui na Mahalo.
Namahalo.
Bem.
Yeah. Es una lengua que
Língua Cuepe.
I propose them, what does she remember? She has not spoken in Cuepe for the last 20 years, no? Yeah?
Iagulide. Yeah. Aka inala yo.
Aka kinala ayo.
She's called Maria Cuepe. So what we did with the grandchildren, it was a very emotional moment. She sang a song, the last Cuepe song. And this is a process of cultural revival. First, people have to be proud of who they are. No, these people were ashamed. No, they were marginalized. They were marginalized. No, in a very hostile environment. I met some tribal groups in southwest Angola, and I wanted to know more about other minorities there. So I saw a name, a very strange name, no? Ngendelengo. Ngendelengo. They're almost gone 70 years ago. They were saying they were being assimilated by another group called the Kubal, the Mukubal. So I went to a place called Garganta, and suddenly some women unveiled their hairstyles, and I said, wow, no? And they showed me these geisha-looking hairstyles, no, with these structures, and then he said, these are the Ngendelengo. These people, they were trying to be discreet because they were a minority. If you didn't see their hairstyle, and if you don't speak their language, you wouldn't say they're Ngendelengo, different from other tribes. A guy told me, I see your interest in our people. There's a place where my grandparents live and where the culture is still very strong, that they have hardly seen foreigners. I can take you there. So we prepared an expedition. Around 10 in the evening, we reached that village. And it was a balanced place. That's like how I feel, no? I mean, I observe things from the outside. I saw a place that had harmony. The people there, they were surprised of me arriving there. The children started crying.
Why?
They had not seen someone with white skin. Ngendelengo. Nobody spoke Portuguese up there, yeah? And they were very strong people. You know, when you see that they were healthy and happy. In anthropology, we also study how the structures of the houses are made, no? How the concept of space. In Africa, it's all a common space, no intimacy. Everything's together, and it's round. Everything's round. But you see, completely adapted into the ecosystem. So I knew I was, objectively speaking, in a last place on Earth. I saw a fragility of a world there, but as I say, the Garganta, this place where I started the expedition, had a tarmac road. The Chinese had built a new road, So, you know, the Ngendelengo living in the valley were ready in the capitalist system. They were selling charcoal, no? They were cutting trees to make charcoal to feed the kitchens of the cities, no? Deforestation, change. I saw what was going on and I said, I have to intervene here and inform so that this balance that I was seeing doesn't break. Because people living in the valley, they say, it's a thing that I've heard so many times. I think we have to calm down and change. And I say, down in the valley, you will be slaves. Like I'm a slave, I have to work to get money and to pay taxes and to pay the school of my child. And you have everything here in the mountains. There's no objective advantages in the valley, it's just getting in the system. This is an image of the 5 tribes of Onkokwa. Onkokwa means like the belly, no? It's the center of the universe for these tribes. It's a very isolated part of Angola. It's just on the other side, you have Namibia. This was the last area to be colonized by the Portuguese. It's dry, nomad peoples, no fixed settlement, so the Portuguese were not really interested. They sent a guy, this Portuguese administrator was a poet. So instead of trying to change them, he said these people should be left alone. He forced the national administration, so this area didn't have any type of church, so that missionaries didn't come here to change how people dress or how people think or how people pray. And of course, and there was no school. There was just a hospital. Yeah? I learned something that is also quite unique and makes it a very special place, no? It's 5 tribes with different social roles, and it's balanced, yeah? It's what in India could be seen as a caste system, no? I mean, there's a dominating tribe and others that are subdued by this tribe. We have not been able to see most of these things because they were destroyed. On top of this social scale are the Himbas. Their status is related to their cattle. They sell the meat, they sell milk. They were the ones that came from Namibia at the end of the 19th century, forced by the German invasion. They pushed this tribe out to the other side of the Kurene River, and they conquered the tribes there, no? The people living in that area were the Tua. The Tua used to be also Khoisan group, no, with the cliques. No, they were hunter-gatherers. They didn't have domesticated animals. When they saw the Himbas, they were impacted, no, by their beauty and their looks. So they became their servants, and they started looking as them. These are the Hakaona, the ones taking care of the cattle of the Himbas. They have a beautiful aesthetic, no? The way they put a type of black clay on their forehead and they decorate it. There was a Himba marriage, no? And these were invited. They have social caste, but there's no marginalization of other groups. This is a party and there's different tribes, no? And they have fun. There's a Himba here. These are the Hakaunas, or these are Gambwe, these are the agriculturalists, and they're all together, each one with its different hairstyle. And they're all proud of the way they look, and this is amazing. For me, this is beautiful and unique. Then they have like magnificent examples of local creativity. We came to this quiz community, they're potters. They know the secrets of clay, no? And there was a young boy, who was 10 years old, and made a town. No? A town with its personages, with their little goats. He dressed them up, they made the huts. It was something amazing, beautiful, unique, and we were happy to see that. The simple life, but at the same time, complex and respectful with the environment that you depend on, no? Ethnic minorities have a lot of threats. You have no political influence in the states where they live. And the states, they think these are poor, disgraceful people that have to be civilized. Yeah, that is a heritage from the colonial times, think that you're superior, that your culture is superior to that. I say no. No, most anthropologists, they observe, no? Observe and write down things. Don't intervene, I intervene. I have an opinion, I'm opinionated. We are planning to build a small structure to bring investigators, people that are interested in knowing how Africa used to be organized before, prior to European colonization.
Do you believe that will put them at risk?
That is the big question, no? That is the big question. I see tourism as a shield for these communities. If a community is not known, impunity can appear, no? Companies can come there and can destroy the place and leave. This is the battle. I haven't found a different way. Yeah, I mean, this doesn't mean this has to become massive tourism of like a human zoo. It has to be done with respect. It's finding a balance. This is the only way I see that these tribes can survive into the next century. Yeah.
My dad, being a patriarchal man, he got married to my mom when she was young, child marriage. He's from Guinea, the other country, the neighboring country to Sierra Leone. And when he got married to my mom, moved with her to Conakry, and the abuse started. My mom gave birth to 3 of us in the space of 5 years. My sister and I, 1 year difference. My brother and I, 2 years difference. I'm the middle child. She actually ran away with us from Conakry. Back then in the 90s, that was really impossible. With 3 kids, ran away from the abuse, came back home. Everyone was like, what are you doing? Like, divorce does not happen these days, what are you doing? So for me, that's the ultimate definition of feminism. That's the ultimate definition of women empowerment. A woman who knows what she wants for her children. Sorry, when these things, like, when I talk about them these days, it gets to me, because when I started my whole activism, it was just like this new world that I just dived into. You know, battling being an African woman and battling with the fact that I have to speak up for my rights and the rights of young girls. At the beginning, they ignored me, but I was on their faces everywhere, the radio, TV, everywhere. And prior to that, I was just like a beauty queen in my county, you know, and then Where did Diáka, like just 2 months now, Diáka is talking about women's rights? Like, where did that come from? I just found peace when I spoke about these issues. So I create safe spaces for these young girls where they can come together, just discuss, talk, open the conversation. Because usually it's just one side of the story. They only tell them that when you go to the Bondo society, all what you will do is eat meat and fish. So I gave them the other side of the story and allow them to actually make their own decision. If you trace back, women had no voice at all, no education, nothing whatsoever. So the Bondo Society was created. When they go through the Bondo Society, it took up to 18 months. So that's a really long time. We had too many beautiful traditions there. But now it's just 3 to 4 days. That's only the cutting parts they focus on. But then along the years, you find out that all the other good practices were left behind. And you look at what the cutting brings to women, death, the short-term consequences, long-term consequences. You take away their sexual pleasure, the ability to be able to give birth naturally. It goes now to the point where they say, okay, a girl has to go through the Bondo Society to be seen as a woman. That's a child. For me, it's a way of killing Mitsgaki. You feel like you have the power, but then at the back scene, the chief is the one who gives the license to the Soweis. Soweis are the traditional women who cut the girls.
When you started being conscious that in your society this was going on and that it had some perversions?
Since I was a child, my grandmother was a Sowe. My mom always told my sister and I never to go in a room with our grandmother alone. Never. Never to go in a room with her alone. So I even felt like there was so much that I could have learned from my grandmother, but because of that gap, my mom, she could not even have that strong relationship with her mother after she went through the Bondo Society. Because no girl goes through there and comes out and feel as if that's love. It's really amazing to know that a white man, or what we'll call in our county, Sierra Leone, Oyimbo, really is taking me to see my people. I really owe you a lot. Thank you.
I really look forward that you accompany me to the jungle. There's a magic aspect to it. This is poetry. You're a tall woman. You will go inside the jungle to meet the shortest people in Africa.
Then let's go.
This is Django. This is my longtime friend. We operated his eye. He had an accident when he was young. His eye was pierced. We took him to Yaoundé, to the hospital. Tous les gens me disent que je ressemble à Jésus.
Vraiment.
Je connais pas Jésus. I am happy to have been able to come with you to this place. No, for me, I've been coming here for the last 12 years, no, and building a project with these people that now I know them. I know most of their names. I feel related to them, no, and it's like family. Since the early times, the Baka lived all along, even in Mali, in Guinea. They were living, but other peoples brought them down until they got refuge in the jungle. That was their last island of resistance, the jungle. But these people are connected to nature. They speak some things that other peoples have lost, and they were here before. The Bantus migrate here 300 years ago, and later the Germans, and after the French. They're the first ones, and until 20 years ago, they had no identity cards. They were not considered citizens. I like Nigeria a lot. It has so much vibration. It's the most diverse country in the world after Papua New Guinea in linguistic terms. There's around 340 languages spoken in the country.
Nigeria?
Yeah. I mean, some languages spoken just by 40 people, others by millions. Like Yoruba is spoken by 5 million people. I mean, Lagos in itself is a whole world, no? It has 12 million people. It's like a country. The traffic jams there. You can spend 5 hours in traffic. But then there's islands of peace in this huge, gigantic city that is forever growing. There's a place called Makoko. It's a neighborhood built on the water. It's a tough life. It's full of life. The Portuguese were the first Europeans to come there. It was during this period, like 15th century, looking for trading routes to get to India. And on their way, they were stopping different places. So the Bay of Lagos, the Gulf of Guinea, was an ideal place to stop. No, the people living there were the Yoruba.
Yoruba.
Yeah, Yoruba. That's one of the important peoples of Africa. No? They have influenced the world, with their cosmology, voodoo, and their art. Even their language is spoken in some parts of America. So they met the Yoruba. Yeah, they started growing mainly sugar cane in the Caribbean and the coast of Brazil. But there was no one willing to work these fields. I mean, the Europeans were weak. They were dying of malaria, of sicknesses. The local population was very weak or had disappeared. They saw in Africa, the Yoruba, they had their own servants. So they started buying those servants to take. They were very strong men and women, and they started sending Africans, and that was an explosion. First was the sugar boom, that was crazy. And then it was cotton, and then other. And apparently, by the end of the 19th century, a lot of fazendeiros, the Portuguese farmers owning sugar plantations in the coast of Brazil, bankrupt. And there was no more business, and they had to get rid of their personnel. Like families that had been living in Brazil for maybe 3 or 4 generations, they had lost their language, they had lost their religion, they had lost their soul in a way. But the owners of those farms could not take care of them. So there was a plan to take them back to Africa. Back then in Africa, colonialists were starting, British and French colonialists, so they needed people. No one from Europe wanted to go and work in Africa, even with high wages. They didn't want to go, they were afraid. So most of these Afro-Brazilians were taken into the administration. And this strange cocktail created a new culture, no? And one of its symbols is their architecture.
I'm Dr. Oluwatoyin Shogbesan. I am an heritage architect. The idea is the Yorubas, instead of taking the designs of the colonial administration, which would be a typical design from Britain, in a way to show their opulence, they took on the Brazilian ones, which allowed them to put the ornamentation that represents the different orishas. The ornamentations also that represents their opulence. They became rich through cocoa. It tells a lot of story.
And after 10, 20 years, they started reasoning that, hey, our Yoruba king sold us. So they were not interested in adopting the Orisha or Voodoo rites. And then the people that beat them to death in the plantations back in Brazil and in different parts of America were Christian. So they said, fuck Christianity, and they saw in Islam a religion that didn't relate them to their former torturers. Yeah? So in all the Aguda or Afro-Brazilian quarters, you find mosques, but the way they are built, they look like the Brazilian churches, with so much decoration, like the ones that you find in Portugal. And a lot of people saw in Islam a third way of recovering their identity, their self-security, that don't share many things. They only share the color of their skin, no?
Why didn't they just, go with them back to their own countries?
They didn't know. In the slave ships, what they did a lot of the time is they mixed different linguistic groups so they could not communicate.
Yeah, that was what happened also in Sierra Leone. That was how the Creole language was developed. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Really.
Images of Nigeria you check in Google and internet, I mean, they're negative.
Yeah.
Up north, it's like a forbidden zone. It's an area where the Ministry of Foreign Affairs says don't go there. It's a red zone. Why? Because they say there's Islamism, no, there's terrorism.
Yeah.
Then my experience was I've never felt unsafe up north. Nigeria has never been a touristic country. I have never been interested in bringing foreigners to their place. Why? I have the feeling that that's the interest of the petrol industry. They abuse, they take goods for little money, they corrupt a couple of politicians, and they keep the people down, no? And this creates a lot of frustration and anger. It's what we're seeing in so many countries in West Africa. People say we've got enough. This neo-colonialism of always telling us what to do, of lying, of manipulating, of putting us on against each other. Sometimes to be heard, you need to use your weapons, because if you say...
But then that's the thing, like you use your weapons against your own people. Why is it that they always go for the women? Why is it that you don't hear that they kidnap men? You don't hear that it was a man that was kidnapped or a group of men, there were raids. It's only about women, and children.
The balance was when we were equal, men and women. When you say that women are kidnapped, also men are kidnapped, but why we talk about women? Because it's when something is really wrong. We depend on women, but we don't want to say it because it's like the patriarchal society is built in this lie, not that we are superior, and accepting that we are equal or in some aspects inferior. It's traumatic going through this.
Last night we had the dance and everything that was happening. So what I saw is the Baka people, yes, the men are there, but then it's really controlled by women. When the Jengi comes out, the Jengi is protected by the men. And then you see the women outside that circle singing and clapping. I think they're using music as a form to dominate the Jengi. So you find out that the louder they sing, the harder they clap, the Jengi goes down, like he bows down. You find out the moment he starts going down, the women that really feels powerful. I don't know what they were saying, but it was like the words they were telling the Jengi was like, we can conquer you, you know, we can actually put you down, you know. But
and what was your interpretation?
For me, it represents again the reality of the fact that women are in power, but then our society is afraid, like if women take over, if we lead.
In the north, to get to Abuja, the federal capital of Nigeria, we have to cross an area inhabited by people called Nupe. The Nupe are a tribe that nobody knows. They were conquered by the Fulani in the 19th century, and they were Islamized. These people outstand for something very special, is their arts. Yeah, they are very good artisans. I want to bring tourists to this area so that they can appreciate this art, they can buy objects, because they're beautiful. And this is just a little example of what used to be that was destroyed during the colonial times. That's the path to follow. Bring value in the local industries and use tourism as a way to finance them. I see tourism as a very powerful tool to strengthen these islands of resistance that are still there, that are still operational. And in the Nupe, they have a characteristic. They decorate the interior with plates. And that is something that I learned while I was studying this group. And I brought like 5 plates. Because this tradition is fading away. Now most of the mud houses are being demolished. So this is always my fight, not to say, hey, you have something beautiful, you have something unique, don't lose it. Don't lose it, that is your trademark. And then I gave it to a family that they still keep a house. They have kept the ancestral house in its original shape, no? So it was quite a magic moment. Yeah. So, as I say, tourism brings light. All the government here, we paid a lot of money to be here, to camp here, to be with them, and they get money from this. So, if it's well managed, it can be a tool against abuse and against impunity. Yeah, if nobody visits them, other people can come and abuse them. If tourists come every 3 months with a little impact, we stay here, we share some time with them, we take some pictures, and we leave. The impact is minimum, and we empower them. That is always my way. I have not found any other way. If you try to fight against the local mafias, they will kill you. They will tell you, don't come anymore to this place. We want to help them, and you cannot fight against it. So let's make a deal. Yeah, it's a clan. It's maybe around 6 families, and you have to feed all these people with the resources of the forest. No, animals are becoming rare nowadays because the roads, new towns, pressure on them, but they still hunt.
I think also maybe the chainsaws also.
Yeah, that disturbs. That disturbs. Yeah, that disturbs the animals. When the food will finish here, not completely, they will move. After half a year, you won't notice that there were people living here. Yeah.
It was a complete different world when Joan and I left the Baka forest to go to the Idool Kingdom.
Pourquoi ici vous gardez cette structure originale?
Bon, on a eu la chance d'avoir le fondateur du village d'Idool, que nous aimons tous dans le village, qui est vraiment intelligent. Tout ce que vous avez vu, c'est lui qui a fondé ça. Nous, on est en train de garder. C'est pour cela qu'on ne veut pas que ça disparaisse. On veut à tout prix garder ça pour que chaque personne qui vient à Idool sache qu'il y avait quelqu'un.
Oui, c'est comme un respect, non?
Voilà,
pour
comme respect,
quelqu'un qui était très spécial.
Pour tout le monde.
Il vous a donné la vie, mais il a aussi donné un trésor, non?
Un très grand trésor que on ne peut pas voir ça n'importe où. C'est ça qui nous a encore plus plu. Parce que vous ne pouvez pas voir les maisons comme ça partout au Cameroun. Je ne pense pas.
My first impression when I reached the kingdom, being a Madingo woman and to go in a Fulani community, it's a completely different experience. At first, the women and children were a bit reserved. I had the opportunity to sit with these girls, and what I felt were girls who are being kept in a certain form of, I won't say cage, because that would be a strong word, but then it reminds me of my own childhood back at the house of my papa in Guinea, where all what we can do is sit at home and read the Quran. Religion teaches us as girls and women that the only place we belong is the home. It gets to a point where the home feels like a cage. Coming to the Idool Kingdom, I can see it in the eyes of these girls to see a woman like me who look like them, have a skin tone like them, but then they can feel that the energy is different. I remembered one of the girls when I asked her that, what does she want to be when she grows up? And her reply was, to teach the Quran. There's nothing wrong to pass knowledge, but then if this knowledge is backed with continuing the patriarchal system of oppressing the woman to stay caged, then there is a problem. Then it still means Mama Africa is in cage. It just took few hours for these girls to really show the true woman in them. Before I left, the energy was different. I know that these girls have never seen pictures of the outside world, pictures that will really show them that they can be more than who they are taught that they can be. My footsteps in that kingdom, I believe, has created a paradigm shift where these girls can actually sit and discuss amongst themselves that they too want to be like that woman that walked through the gates of their kingdom.
In the north of Cameroon, at the foot of the Vokre Mountains, we finally reached the region where Joan's project to keep culture alive through tourism began. We all felt that his part in the story was almost over. Diáka was more than ready to face the journey to her roots alone from here.
I brought you here because from here you can see the Bukaru. This is a very symbolic place for me and my project. From this hill, I watched all this valley with my local partners from the different tribes living here, the Fulani, the Pearl, the Dowayo, the original people from here, and the mountain dwellers, the Dupa. The idea was to have a sort of an embassy, a place, a center where to bring foreigners interested in the different cultures in the area that want to support the tribal communities here, to improve their living standards, and to keep their culture alive. I've opened the debate, and now at least there's doubts.
Yeah.
There's doubts. And it's not like, oh, naked in the mountain means primitive, a world that has to be destroyed. The valley, cement, modernity, it's the way to go. They've understood that they were like this 50, 60, 100 years ago, and that they changed for good, for bad. But these last survivors of the mountain have the right to keep living the way they want to live. When you climb up there, you will see a world that has faded away in most parts of the world and also in Africa.
After Joan showed me the route of his walk, I was ready to go solo on the journey that I believed will lead me to my destiny. A journey I had no doubt was being led by my ancestors. At first, my mind was telling me that I could really not make it because this journey required me to walk for hours, for days. I come from a background of the Mandinga tribe. The Mandinga tribe is everything that represents Africa. But then, how is it so that I feel so disconnected from my roots? I feel lost. I feel raped of my culture and beliefs. There was a beautiful thing also that I learned about the Mboro people. Matriarchy still exists in their tribe. The women still have the choice to choose the men that they want. Civilization taught us that a woman can't have more than one man. You're promiscuous, you're a prostitute, you sell your body to the devil. But then these women proudly choose the man that they want. So the Mboro people had these beautiful tattoos. To have a tattoo in the modern African society is like you're committing suicide. Tattoos are seen as a connection to the evil world. Again, you go back to this patriarchal and oppressive religion that teaches us not to pierce our bodies, not to do any form of tattoo. These tribes represent themselves through these markings. There was an incident that happened, and the children were sitting by the fireside, and one of the girls hit a younger girl. When the elders came, the way how they reacted was to separate them. I was shocked that none of them got beaten after. In the modern African society, what civilization introduced to the colonial rulers was that in the Bible, they tell us, spare the rod and spoil the child. Throughout my journey, I never saw any of these tribes beat a child.
dimo. To be badde do lam ka wase warata. La fila, elle a dit que tu ne veux pas ça. La fille qui t'a donné le collier là. S'il ne veut pas acheter ça, il m'a demandé de te poser la question. Ouais.
Bona bolaika, bona bukhali njele, bona bolaika, bona bukhali nyo, bona bolaika, nami buyeka, bedlugeka, yami bedlugeka, bedlugeka, nami buyeka, buyeka, nami bedlugeka.
The sun covered the whole valley with her beautiful light, and it guided me through my path towards the mountain. Being a woman and traveling with so many men, I felt like a leader amongst them. I felt like a woman king. Because for me, it was my first journey, but for these men, they've traveled that path so many times. I could feel their energy, the way how they thought I could not make it. With every step that I took, I knew that I was getting closer, closer to connecting my roots and feeling my empty soul.
Nang bang gawe, na gak idak nya ga. Nang bang gawe na gak idak nya ga.
Odo. Asik king kama. Ya king itu.
The Dupa people, just like the other tribes, they love music. I had the privilege to drink with them, to dance with them, to experience the way of life for them. This journey has truly made me to learn, unlearn, and relearn what life really represents. It tells me that what really drives men to be evil is the idea of property, the idea that I own this. The idea the chair that you sit on is made from a tree. The water that you drink comes from the river. The food that you eat is given to you by Mother Nature. With all this coming together, it shows you that there is no greed amongst these people. This was the toughest journey I've ever done in my life. As I go higher towards the mountaintop, my thoughts were uncontrollable. I thought of the fact that I am the first African that come from the city who ever made it this top on the mountain where the Sapa people live. Ay, ay, ay. These people really showed me that Mama Africa still lives here. I had a conversation with the Sapa people. We had a discussion why do they wear the cowrie shell. And one reason was because their ancestors used it as money in exchange to buy goods. Je connais que ça c'est pour faciliter aussi. When I told the Sapa people that the cowrie shell looked like the vagina and it looks like a pregnant woman, I could see the lights in their eyes. Not only the women, but the men. Quand je venais ici avec Sapa, je portais chemise. Tu aimes ça? I also asked them, how did they feel when I came to their community with clothes on? Because they were proudly dressed in the African attire, which our colonial rulers taught us that it's backward, it's discriminatory, it's not modern. And do you know what they told me? They said, we don't see you as one of us.
Si je fais ça, tu vas voir moi comme une Africaine, comme une Sapa?
And I asked them if they will allow me to wear the Sapa clothes. Again, I saw the light in their eyes. When I finally wore the clothes of the Sapa people, it was a complete different energy. Even the children started speaking to me the language. You know how I felt? I felt like a queen. I felt fertile. I had the feeling of freedom, liberty. There was endless music in my soul. I could feel the values and culture. I could feel equality, respect. I felt so beautiful.